All right, welcome back. We are live from the marketplace at B2B Summit. Thanks to Forrester for letting us be part of this. When we set up this audio system, Rick, we did not anticipate the live band component of this. So if you hear some Fleetwood Mac covers in the background, it's part of the entertainment, part of the ambiance today.
It's very good.
It's not bad. The band's really good. But excited to be here. We're here in this episode of Sales Pipeline Radio with Rick Bradbury. He's the principal analyst for Forrester with some hot off the press research that I'm super excited to get into today. We're going to talk about the concept of the sales super cycle.
Yes, sir.
You almost want to say that with a little bit of an echo, the super cycle. It's been a long day. We're getting a little cheeky. But Rick, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet. I'm really happy to join.
How's the day been for you? How's today been?
It's good.
Yeah.
Lots of variety of sessions. Yeah, lots of hype, lots of buzz. And this is really exciting being right here on the floor.
This is amazing. Yeah, shout out to Amanda and the PR team for making all this possible. Thanks, shout out to Nick on the AV team for getting all this equipment together here. It's been a busy day. It's been a lot going on here, and it's been exciting to see some of the themes that have come out of today around like the buying journey turning into buying groups and the diversity of that buying group. Really interesting to see people talk about integration across go-to-market teams and the need for sales, marketing, CS, product, spend time together. Lots of AI conversation as well. But I'm excited to talk today about the future of sales and what we're going to see. So let's start with that. Like, what do you see in your research you've done? This is literally hot off the press, so excited to talk about it. What are some of the components that you think are going to be key to the future of sales?
Yeah. All right, let's jump in. I think part of it here is around the context of selling, right?
Yeah.
Like when we think about the future is not really something that sales leaders love to spend a lot of time on because they're focused on the quarter, and they always are, and they always will be. But the context around selling is changing, and there are a handful of forces that I think really stress the sales function in the future. And that's what we want to get into. And you mentioned AI earlier. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just start with that one. It's probably foremost on everyone's mind.
It took us 2 minutes in this. That's a record for this podcast. Not a record here. 2 minutes to get about to AI here at Forrester B2B Summit 2025. You look across all the booths here in the marketplace, and it's really hard to find one that doesn't have AI somewhere. So clearly it has become now ubiquitous. But let's land the plane a little bit. When it comes to the future of sales, how do people need to think about like operating and integrating AI?
Yeah, AI is going to really augment sales productivity.
Yeah.
Like, that's the immediate near-term benefit. But let's not make any mistake about it. AI is a fast-moving, really rapid trend that is really dynamic. And it is going to challenge the basics of sales. Like AI plus automation together is really going to create a different kind of selling environment altogether. The nature, the speed, and the quality of sales tasks, totally new calculus.
Yeah. Well, and when I think about AI, I think about automation. When I think about AI and automation together, start thinking about this concept of buyer self-service.
Ooh.
And this has been a little bit of a controversial topic as I've talked to go-to-market leaders. Some see this as inevitable. Some see this as an existential threat to their go-to-market teams. When you think about the next decade of selling, how ubiquitous is self-service going to be? Are we not going to need salespeople anymore, or is this part of a different job to be done?
Yeah. So when people hear self-service, they often think that final click, the final tap, or document signature that finalizes everything with the transaction. That's really not what we're talking about with self-service. Self-service is really about buyers who can complete tasks on their own.
Yep.
So rewind, go back 10, 15 years. In order for a buyer to progress, they had to complete most of their buying tasks with a seller. That's just how it worked.
Right.
And that's how most sales teams are set up today. Generate a lead, generate an opportunity, whoop, pass it off to sales. We'll work with you the rest of the journey. That's not how it works anymore. So more and more of the buying journey is becoming digitized and it's self-service.
Right.
And the real takeaway for sales leaders is that engagement with prospects is now a hybrid motion.
Right.
So we have to enable buyers to complete those tasks on their own, but then create natural links where we can have personal and meaningful interactions with them as we go through the process together.
And if you were to give that definition to marketers in this room, they'd be like, yeah, that's not new. That's been happening, right? Like the self-service around content, self-service around demos, the fact that a lot of companies are getting rid of forums and saying just, choose your own adventure. We're going to watch you, but choose your own adventure. That is happening, and it is benefiting companies. It is benefiting marketing teams. I think now that we are bringing that self-service to sales, Do we need an SDR team? Do we just have robots do this? I've seen a lot of companies let go their SDR team and then hire many of them back because they realize the AI, at least for now, can't yet do that entire job. So yes to self-service, but to jobs that need to be done along that complex process, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And it creates a different kind of engagement with prospects. The real change, so self-service is not brand new. That's been happening for 5, 10, 15 years.
Yep.
Lots of digitization. What is happening is that the self-service is spreading to all buying stages and purchase sizes. So if you talk to somebody 2 or 5 years ago, they would say, oh, that self-service stuff, that's for small purchases, transactional stuff,
Right.
SMB type of environment. That's not really enterprise sales. Oh, so wrong.
Right.
Buyers are completing self-service tasks in all purchase sizes and stages. That's really new. When we ask sellers, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges out there that you face? More than a third of them, 37% from Forrester's B2B sales survey. In 2024, they said being slow to recognize and adapt to changing buyer behaviors is one of the top revenue growth challenges for their team. So, doesn't sound like a huge percentage, but again, this is more than a third saying that is the top thing.
Yeah.
It's buyers and their changes, and the self-service is foremost among them.
And your ability to adapt to that as an organization in your process and your culture is not trivial, right? As this really scales and becomes a more material part of the process. So I've not heard someone before use the phrase sales super cycle.
Right.
And for a lot of organizations that really wish and hope that selling could be easier, streamlined, faster, easier, super cycle sounds like we're going the opposite direction. I would argue that's an inconvenient truth that is a law of physics in selling and in B2B markets right now. Like that train's out of the station. But talk about, what do you mean by super cycle and why is that important for go-to-market leaders to embrace?
Yeah. In the past, the internet, cloud, mobile, all of those technologies fueled a cycle of macroeconomic growth. And that was a boon for sellers, right? Mm-hmm. You could sell a lot of product based on those trends, and it was great. And so what we're seeing is that AI is part of that next cycle of economic growth. But the super cycle we define here is both growth, but combined with a period of revenue transformation that goes with it. Okay. So even if in the near term, so we see a lot of macroeconomic clouds right now, just some really bad stuff that's not best for selling environment, but regardless of what economies are going to do, these trends and dynamics in the super cycle will persist. So AI is going to continue to transform. Our sales processes are going to continue to transform, and then what and how we sell is all going to transform as well. It's going to be more AI based, it's going to be smarter, more automated. That is a trend that's just not going to go away no matter how we define it. So the sales cycle is that period of growth and transformation that will hit the sales function in ways that we've not seen in the past.
Is this exclusive to net new sales and customer acquisition, or does this apply to customer expansion efforts as well?
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing. Think about your routes to market.
Yeah.
Routes to market. So we're not just talking about a direct sales team.
Yep.
Like what we're thinking about is the composition of how revenue is attained.
Yep.
So routes to market equal routes to revenue. That's one thing. Another theme is really around direct versus indirect. One is around pipeline or deals that are net new versus post-sale, like you mentioned. All of that is changing. So the post-sale is going to be more important, Matt, in the future.
So the way that this is straight from the description of your session coming up, it's like to succeed in the future, sales leaders will have to learn, or maybe in case relearn, much of what has made them successful in the past. What do you mean by that? Yeah,
relearning. That's great. So the dynamics of this new super cycle are, here's some characteristics. The future will be more intelligent for sales.
Yep.
AI agents and automation will be accelerated. So it's just faster. This new world we're going to be in the next decade, it's a disruptive decade.
Yep.
Fast, frequent improvements will be needed from the sales team.
Yep.
A lot more around that. Number 3, characteristic, adaptive. So agile, customer-centric adjustments. We can't continue to sell the same way we have before. Let's be real honest. Real honest, like brutal honest for your listeners. Most of sales, most of demand gen, here's a secret. I'm going to whisper it into the microphone. It's all built for sellers.
Yes.
It's not actually built for customers.
Right.
And so in this new future, I don't think we can get away with that for very much longer. Like, it's adaptive. It's got to be customer focused. Number 4 for sales leaders, a characteristic integrated. So roles, technologies, processes, like we used to have these really defined roles, responsibilities, silos, these functional areas that were really nice and tidy. Well, guess what's happening? All of that gets a little murkier. What is a demand team? What are SDRs? You mentioned SDRs. Yeah. Where do they report? Right. Is that a marketing function? Is that a sales function? In every organization, you will see that all over the map. So more integrated is what to expect in the new super cycle. And then lastly, it's going to be more networked. So you mentioned some of the themes coming out of the B2B Summit here. One of them is around buying networks. So buyers don't just buy as a group, but they use the entire set of people, assets, and resources that are available in their network to go through the purchase process. And they, too, will be using AI for their purchases in the future.
Talk today live at Forrester B2B Summit on the marketplace floor with Rick Bradbury. He's the principal analyst at Forrester. There will be a test later on those 5 areas. Hopefully you're keeping track of those at home. I was really excited to see the more network component bear out in a lot of the content in the keynotes earlier today, and to recognize that the internal buying committee is not sufficient, that you have to engage the ecosystem around buyers as well. Yes, that increases complexity, but when you think about the analysts, you think about influencers, you think about partners, you think about other customers that are either have relationships with your prospects and other peer customers as well, how you orchestrate those relationships together really matters. And even as AI and technology grows in importance, I think it's those relationships amongst people in those ecosystems that is going to give companies a competitive advantage moving forward.
Yeah, a real secret too. Another secret, revenue happens in networks, happens in buying networks. Revenue happens in your selling network internally, how you get to market and get things done. Revenue happens in your partner network, your ecosystem overall of how you are getting out to market and selling your product.
So your content in your report is really focused on the next decade of selling. But I think if someone sits down and listens to all this, it'd be really easy to get intimidated by how much change is coming, how much change is here. What do you recommend if sales leaders think about and do in the next 6 to 12 months? So that if we're sitting here next year, 10% into that next decade of selling, what are the things sales leaders need to have already spent time mastering and integrating into their teams?
Yeah, let's hit a few, and in no particular order. And I think this first one will surprise you. Income and employment insecurity among sellers will rise. And so sellers live with a higher degree of that to begin with. But in the future, it will look a little bit different. In Forrester's Future of Work survey last year, 60% of B2B employees say they fear losing their job due to automation in the next 10 years. So in this next decade, same time period, 60% are like, hey, I'm already fearful that my job is going to disappear. I'm going to lose it.
Right.
That number is probably heightened for sellers. So for sales leaders, the takeaway there is, look, there's probably an emerging wellness crisis going to be brewing among your sellers. You better get on top of that ahead of time. So that's number one. Number two, and we've hit on this AI theme, but it's going to change the composition of how sales leaders allocate their budgets and their resources. And it's going to become difficult because sales leaders tend to be pretty tight with their sales team. And now they're faced with this decision of, hey, I have to start introducing more automation, more AI. I have less headcount. And some of these composition questions might become agonizingly difficult as sales leaders are forced to automate into and engineer into this new calculus. So sales agents will be onboarded and trained to co-sell with sellers.
Yep.
Don't know what that looks like exactly yet. Right. No one does. They may say they have an idea, but we're going to figure that out. Co-selling with AI agents will be kind of the new norm for sales. Those are two.
Yeah. There's a guy by the name of Pascal Finette. I don't know if you know this guy. He's a futurist, and he talks about this concept called the innovation paradox. And what he says is the innovation has happened in the past now appears far shallower than it actually was. You think about like 15 years ago and the iPhone barely existed, and now we have this supercomputer in our pocket. We are recording these programs the last couple of days on an SD card. It is barely the size of just the surface of my thumb. It holds 1/4 of a terabyte of data. Like that would have filled this conference room not that long ago, right? So his point is like the innovation that's happened in the past was much steeper than it now feels and appears. The innovation in the future looks far steeper than it will be. So everything from AI to mobile to the advances in computing, it is all coming. And without understanding it today, it may seem scary. But we are really good as humans at adapting to new normal.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a go-to-market leader thinking about this future of selling and the super sales cycles, this will be different. You pointed out areas where it's different, where it could feel scary. My job security feels a little scary. But go into this eyes wide open. Go into this seeing this as an opportunity, not a threat. And there will be a new normal that will be better.
Yeah, I think there's some good news in it for sales managers.
Okay.
We haven't talked a whole lot about them. We've been talking about sales reps. But for managers, like their job, if they do it well, is to be a great coach. And what we know is that most sales leaders don't spend enough time on that. And when they do, they're not really that good. And let's face it, humans have biases. And it's sometimes really hard to get to that level of trust with a sales manager to really drive outsized results. With AI in the future, you will probably have an AI agent be your sales coach. That is your new coach, your primary coach. Listen in on all your calls. Your manager can't do that. They're too busy.
Yep.
Record them all, summarize them all, put the next steps in there, give you contextually relevant prompts on what to do, what to say next, on what the next step is, and then to give you feedback on what other sellers in the organization are doing that are successful and are tied to deals that are won and correlated to those factors. Can your sales manager do that today? No. Cannot. And so the sales manager role is really going to be from first-line sales coaching to first-line sales orchestrating.
Yeah.
Really looking more holistically at this people, process, technology equation and how to make sure that reps are getting all of the resources they need to sell at the top of their game. Part of that is automated. Part of it is a different productivity equation as well. That is really what the emerging role of the first-line sales manager will probably look like in this next decade.
You keep describing a future that feels better. You keep describing a future that feels more efficient, more productive, more beneficial to the people, the humans involved. It might be a little messy getting there because we don't have that clear path. We don't know exactly what that looks like. And I think, humans, we don't like change. We like things that are known. We want to know what that clear path is going to look like. It's why attribution continues to be a real challenge in the industry. We want to know. We want to know exactly what's working and exactly what to do next. And it frustrates us when we don't know, right? But I think this guidance you've got here in some of these areas of focus, again, going eyes wide open, and really for everyone listening, for everyone that's a part of this, to really be part of identifying what's going to work, to be part of testing and learning and then sharing that back in communities like this so we all continue to get better.
That's right. And we probably wouldn't normally associate these words with the sales function. Test, iterate, deploy,
Right.
Get out there and really experiment with technology and deployment. But that is exactly what needs to happen. I was chatting with somebody earlier on the floor. We were talking about this very subject. And they said, I think the marketing organization is a little farther along. And they sort of said it with a wink, like, sales is kind of a laggard here. And I said, look, the quarterly sales attainment and bookings attainment focus is just going to drive where leaders spend their time. That's how they're goaled. That's how they're measured.
Yep.
They're not measured on long-term change and transformation or technology deployments. That would be a pretty rare type of thing from a sales leader. We are going to see fits and starts, but the real, I think there's some tension here, and that is if you look at transformation in the go-to-market scheme broadly, the sales function is behind, and they have a backlog of transformation initiatives that they should have been working on all along that they haven't. So they're starting from a point already that is behind the curve, and now they're faced with a future that is faster, more intelligent, and requires immediate deployment with this kind of stuff. It's going to reach a really uncomfortable point for sales leaders because they have to arrive at that conclusion right there in the moment. Oh my gosh, my job has changed. Yep. Let me go back to the CEO. Let me go back to my boss and be like, look, the world is totally different in the next 6 to 12 months. It's even more radical in the next decade. Let's talk about what that means for sales and how sales and the rest of the go-to-market machine really organize differently for the customer.
I love it. Rick Bradbury, where can people who are listening to this say, this is great, I want to dig in on this further? Where can they go look? Where should they learn?
For these topics?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Forrester's always a great source. And, I think there are some really interesting points in here that I really haven't seen yet. So it took a group of analysts to come together to find these points. And if you're a Forrester subscriber and you have access to this report, take a look, because it's more than just the future of sales. It's really the entire context around what the future of the go-to-market machine looks like in the next decade.
Awesome. Love it. Rick, thanks for being here. Enjoy the rest of the day. I know we're doing this at the end of a very long day, but thanks for making this a priority.
Great. Likewise. Great to be here.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
You bet.